Section 1 of Eclogae, Eclogues. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Eclogae, Eclogues, by Dante Alighieri and Giovanni del Virgilio. Ecloga Prima, by Giovanni del Virgilio. Johannes de Virgilio Dante Alighieri. Pieridum vox alma, novisqui cantibus orbem, mulces letifluum vitali tollere ramo, dum cupis evolvens triplicis confinia sortis indita promeritis animarum sontibus orcum, astripetis leten epifebia regna beatis. Tanta quid heu semper iactabis seria vulgo, et nos pallentes nihil exte vate legemus. Ante quidem citara pandum delphina movedis, davus et ambiguo sphingos problemata solvet, tartareum preceps quam gens idiota figuret, et secreta poli vix exferata Platoni. Quae tamen in triviis numquam digesta coaxat, comicomus nebulo qui flacum pelleret orbe. Non locor his imo studio calentibus inquis. Carmine sed laico, clerus vulgaria temnit, et si non varient, cum sint idiomata mille. Praeterea, nullusquos inter es admine sextus, nequem consequeris caelo sermone forensi descripsit, qua recensor liberrime vatum, fabor si fandi Paulum concedis habenas, nec margaritas profliga prodigus apris, nec preme castalias indigna veste sorores. At precor ora cie quae te distinguere possint, carmine vatisono sorti communis utrique, et iam multa tuis lucem narratibus orant, dic age quo petiit Iovis armiger astra volatu, dic age quos flores que lilia fregit arator, dic frigios damas laceratus dente molosso, dic ligurum montes et classes partenopeas, carmine quo possis alcide tangere gades, et quo te refluus religiens mirabitur iste, et faros et quondam regnum te noscete lisse. Si te fama iuvat parvo te limite septum, non contentus eris, nec vulgo iudice tolli. En ego iam primus si dignum duxeris esse, clericus aonidum vocalis verna maronis, promere gymnasiis te delectabor ovantum, inclita peneis redolentem tempora certis. Ut praefectus eco sibi plaudit preco sonorus, festat Orfea ducis populo pretendere letto. Iam mihi belli sonis horrent clangoribus aures, quid pater Apenninus hiat, quid concitat equor Tirhenum nereus, quid mars infrendit utroque, tange celin, tantos hominum compesce labores. Ni canis hec, alios a te pendendo poeta, omnibus ut solus dicas indicta manebunt. Si tamen eridani nihis pen mediamne dedisti, quod visare notis me dignareris amicis, nec piget nerves numeros legisse priorem, quos strepit arguto temerarius anser olori, respondere velis aut solvere vota magister. End of Ecloga Prima.
Section 2 of Eclogae, Eclogues. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Eclogae, Eclogues, by Dante Alighieri and Giovanni del Virgilio. Eclogue 1 by Giovanni del Virgilio. Translated by Edward Hayes Plumptre. Johannes de Virgilio to Dante Alighieri. Ah, gentle voice, to all the muses dear, who with new rhymes dost soothe the troubled world, still striving with the branch of life's true tree to cleanse it from the taint that bringeth death, by laying bare to view the threefold coasts assigned to souls as merits may demand: hell for the lost, for those that seek the stars Lethe, and realms above the sun for saints. Why wilt thou still such lofty topics treat for the rude herd, while we with study pale read nothing from thee, poet though thou art? Sooner the wary dolphin with his lyre shall Davos kite, or solve the riddling Sphinx her knotty problems, than the headlong herd illiterate figure Tartarean depths, and secrets of the heaven by Plato's self scarce fathomed. Yet these things the town buffoon, who would drive Horace from the world, croaks out, by reason undigested. Thou wilt say, not to these speak I, but to expert souls, though in the people's language. Well, the world of scholars scorns that language, were it one unvarying, not in 1,000 dialects. And none of those with whom thou rank'st as sixth, nor he thou followest on thy heavenward path, wrote in the speech that through the market rings. Wherefore, outspoken critic of our bards, if thou wilt give free course, I'll speak my mind. Be not too wasteful, throwing pearls to swine, nor clothe the sisterhood of Casterly in unmeet raiment, but, I pray thee, choose the speech that will most widely give thee fame for thy prophetic song, the common lot of this and of that nation. Even now, full many a theme there is that waits thy speech. Tell with what flight the bearer of Jove's bolts made for the stars. Tell what the flowerets fair, and what the lilies that the ploughman crushed. Tell of the Phrygian does that wounded lie, torn by the teeth of fierce Molossian hounds. Tell of Ligurian mountains, and the fleets of fair Parthenope in verse of thine, so that thy fame may spread to Gades old, Alcides' city, and that Ister's stream may hear and wonder, as will Pharos too, and where Elissa once was owned as queen. If fame delight thee, it will scarce content to be cooped up within a narrower sphere, and find thy glory in the vile herd's praise. Lo, I, the priest, if thou that claim concede, of those fair nymphs who haunt Aonian hills, and Maro's servant, bearing Virgil's name, will gladly be the first to lead thee forth, mid crowds of loud applauding worshippers, thy temples crowned with wreaths of fragrant bays, e'en as a herald, mounted on his horse, exults, proclaiming loud with echoing voice his leader's trophies to the joyful crowd. E'en now the alarm of war affrights mine ears. What threats are those of farther Apennine? Why are Tyrrhenian waves by Nereus lashed? Why rages Mars on this side or on that? Take thou thy lyre, and calm that tumult wild, unless thou sing of this, while other bards hang on thee, that alone thou sing to all, they will remain untold. Yet even now, if thou who dwell'st hard by Eridanus, give me the hope that thou wilt visit me, and count me worthy of some kindly lines, and if it irk thee not to read my verse, weak though it be, e'en such as goose or polled might cackle to the swan of sweetest song, or answer, master mine.
Section 3 of Eclogae, Eclogues. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Eclogae, Eclogues, by Dante Alighieri and Giovanni del Virgilio. Ecloga Secunda, by Dante Alighieri. Dantes Alighieri, Johanni de Virgilio. Vidimus in nigris albo patiente lituris pierio de mulsa sinu modulamina nobis. Forte recensentes pastas de more capellas, tunc ego sub quercu meus et melibeus eramus. Ille quidem, cupiebat enim consciscere cantum. Titire quid mopsus, quid vult, et dissere, dixit. Ridebam mopse, magis et magis ille premebat. Victus amore sui, posito vix denique risu. Stulte quid insanis, inquam tua cura capellae, te potius poscunt, quam malacennula turbet. Pascua sunt ignota tibi, que mennalus alto vertice declivi celatur solis inumbrat, herbarum vario florumque impicta colore. Circuit hec humilis et tectus fronde saligna, perpetui sum dis a summo margine ripas, rorans alveolus qui quas monstes super edit, sponte viam qua mitis erat se fecit aquarum, mopsus in hisdum lenta boves per gramina ludunt, contemplatur ovans hominum superumque labores. Inde per inflatos calamos interna recludit gaudia, sic ut dulce melos armenta sequantur placatique ruant campis de monte leones, et refluant undae frondis et mennala nutent. titiretung si mopsus ait decantat in herbis, ignotis ignota tamen sua carmina possum te monstrante meis vagulis prodiscere capris. Hic ego quid poteram cum sic instaret anellus. Montibus aoniis mopsus, melibae cotanis, dum satagunt alii causarum iura doceri, sededit et sacri nemoris per paluit umbra, vatificis prolutus aquis et lacte canoro, viscera plena ferens et plenus adusque palatum, me vocat ad frondes versa penei decretas. Quid facies, melibeus ait, tu tempora lauro semper inornata per Pasqua pastor habebis? O melibe, decus vatum quaque nomen in auras fluxit, et insomnem vix mopsum musa peregit. Retuleram, cum sic dedit indignatio vocem. Quantos ballatus colles et prata sonabunt, si viridante coma fidibus peana ciebo, sed timeam saltus et rurignara deorum. Non et triumphales melius vexare capillos, et patrio redeam si quand abscondere canos fronde sub incerta solitum flavescere sarno. Ille, quis hoc dubitet, propter quod respice tempus, tituire quam velox, nam iam senuere capellae, quas conceptudis dedimus nos matribus hircos. Tunc ego, cum mundi circumflua corpora cantu, astricoleque meo velut infera regna patebunt, de vincire caput hedera lauroque iuvabit, concedat mopsus. Mopsus, tunc ille, quid inquit? Comica non ne vides ipsum reprehendere verba, tum quia femineo resonant utrita labello, tum quia castalias pudet acceptare sorores. Ipsego respondi, versus iterumque relegi, mopse tuos. Tunc ille humerus contraxit et ergo, quid faciemus ait mopsum revocare volentes? Est mecum quam noscis ovis gratissima dixi, ubera vixque ferre potest tam lactis abundans, rupe sub ingenti captas modo ruminat herbas, nulli iuncta gregi, nullis assuetaque caulis, sponte venire solet numquam vi poscere multram. Hanc ego presto lor manibus mugere paratis, hac in plebo decem missurus vascula mopso. Tu tamen interdum capros meditere petulcos, et duris crustis discas infigere dentes. Talia sub quercu, melibeus, et ipse canebam.
Section 4 of Eclogae, Eclogues. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Eclogae, Eclogues, by Dante Alighieri and Giovanni del Virgilio. Eclogue II, by Dante Alighieri, translated by Edward Hayes Plumptre. Dante Alighieri to Giovanni del Virgilio. Those letters black on patient paper traced, we read, those warblings from Pierian breast, flowing so softly, flowing too for us. And so it chanced we told our tale of goats fresh from their pastures, I beneath the oak, and Meliboeus with me. He indeed, for much he sought with me to read that song. O Tityrus, began, I pray thee tell what Mopsus means. And I, O Mopsus, smiled. And then he urged his question more and more. Conquered at last by my great love for him, my laughter scarce repressed, I answered him, Why ravest thou, O foolish one? said I. The goats thou tendest, they demand thy care, e'en though thy meagre fare may vex thee too. Unknown to thee, the pastures where the shade of Minenus o'erhangs, and hides the sun with sloping summit, pastures decked in tints of thousand hues of grasses and of flowers. A lowly stream, by willow boughs o'erhung, surrounds them, from its surface scattering dew o'er all its banks, and hollows out a way where waters wander at their own sweet will, from the high summit flowing. Mopsus there, while o'er the pliant grass his oxen rove, contemplates at his ease of men and gods the labours. Then through pipes that swell with wind he to his inner joys gives utterance, so that his sweet songs draw his herds to him, and lions, calmed, rush from the mountain's height down to the plain, and waters stay their course, and mountain height and forest nod their heads. O Tityrus, spake he, if Mopsus sings in unknown pastures, yet his unknown songs I yet may teach to these my wandering goats, with thee to guide me. What then could I do when he thus urged me, panting eagerly? O Meliboeus, to Aonian hills Mopsus has given himself, year following year, while others toil o'er law and equity, and in the holy mountain's shade grows pale, washed in the stream that quickens poet's life, and full, till breast, throat, palate overflow with milk of song. My Mopsus summons me to take the leaves that grow on Peneus' shore, where Daphne was transformed. What wilt thou do? said Meliboeus. Wilt thou ever keep thy brows undecked with laurels, through the fields as shepherd known? Nay, name and fame of seer oft vanish, Meliboeus, into air, and scarcely has the muse our Mopsus brought to full completeness, spite of sleepless nights. Then spake I, indignation finding voice, What echoes will from hills and fields resound, if with a laurelled brow I tune my lyre to paean hymns? And yet I own I fear the thickets wild, and fields that know not God. Were it not better done to deck my locks with triumph wreath, and should I e'er return where my own Arno flows, to hide them there, now grey, once golden, 'neath the laurel crown? And he, who doubts this? Yet, O Tityrus, bethink thee therefore how the time flies fast. The she-goats are grown old, whom once we paired, that they might bring forth young. Then I replied, when in my song the sea-girt mountain high, and those who dwell within the starry spheres, shall be revealed, as now the realms of hell, then 'twill be well with ivy and with bay to crown my brows. Will Mopsus grant me this? Mopsus, he answered, seest thou not that he condemns the speech of that thy comedy, as by the lips of women trite and worn, rejected by the nymphs of Castaly? So is it, I replied, and then again I read thy verses, Mopsus. With a shrug he answered, what then lies within our reach our Mopsus to convert? And then I said, I have a new, thou know'st her goodliest far of all the flock, in milk abounding, so that scarce she bears the weight of udders full. 'Neath the vast rock just now she chews the cud, joined to no flock, accustomed to no fold. Of her free will, unforced, she never fails to seek the milk-pail. Her 'tis in my mind to milk with ready hands, and 10 jugs full will I to Mopsus send. Do thou meanwhile watch all the frolics of the gamesome goats, and learn to fix thy teeth in hardest crusts. So sang we then beneath our oak boughs, I and Meliboeus, while our poor abode saw
Section 5 of Eclogae, Eclogues. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Eclogae, Eclogues, by Dante Alighieri and Giovanni del Virgilio. Ecloga Tertia, by Giovanni del Virgilio. Johannes de Virgilio, Dante Alighieri, Ecloga responsiva. Forte sub indriguos colle subi sarpinar heno, obvia fid, viridi niveus interlita crines, nympha procax fueram nativo conditus antro. Frondentes ripas stondebant sponte juvenci, mollia carpebant agne, dumosa capelle. Quid facerem? Nam solus eram puerincola silve, irruerant alii causis adigentibus urbem, nec lucinisa mici, nec respondebat Alexis, suetus uterque comes. Calamos moderabar hidraules, falcere curvella cuncte sol lamina, quando littois adriaci resonantem titiron umbra, qua dense longo pretextunt ordine pinus, pascua por recte cello genioque locali, allida mirtetis et humi florentibus herbis, quaque nec arentes aries fluvialis arenas, esse sinit molli dum postulat ecora villo, retulit ipse mici flantis levesibilus euri,
quovo callis odor per menna la celsa profusus, balsamat auditus et lactis stillat in ora, quale nec a longo meminerum tempore mulsum, custodes gregium quamquam tamen arcades omnes. Arcades exultant audito carmine nymphae, pastoresque boves et oves hirteque capelle, a rectis quonagri decursant auribus ipsi. Ipsetiam fauni saliunt de colle licei. Et mecum, si cantat oves et titirus hircos, aut armenta trahit, quianam civile canebas, urbe sedens carmen, quando hoc benacia quondam, pastorale sonans detrivit fistula labrum. Audiat in silvis et te cantare bubulcum. Nec mora de postis calami maioribus inter, arripio tenues et labris flantibus hisco. Ha, divine senex, ha, sic eris alterabillo, alteres aut idem samio sic credere vati, sic liceat mopso, sic ut liceat melibeo. Eheu, pulvereo quod stes in tegmine scabro, et merit indignans in gultes pascua sarni, rapta tuis gregibus ingrate derecus urbi, hu mectare genas lacrimarum flumine mopso, parce tuo, nec te crucia crudelis et illum, cuius amor tantum complectitur inquam. Iam te blandes enex quanto circunligat ulmum, proceram vitim per centum vincula nexo. O si quando sacriterum flavescere cannos, fonte tuo videas et ab ipsa filli de pexos, quam visando tuas tegetes mirabilis uvas. Ast intermedium pariat neteria tempus letitie, spectare potes quibus oti orantris, et mecum pausare simul cantabimus ambo. Ipse levi calamo, sed tu, gravitate magistrum, firmius insinuans, nequem sua desserat ettas. Ut venias, locus ipse vocat, fons humidus intus, antra rigatque saxa tegunt virgulta flabellant, circitero riganum redolet, quoque causa soporis herba papaveris est, oblivia qualiteraiunt, grata creans, serpilla tibi substernet alexis, quem corridon vocet ipse rogent, tibi nisa lavabit, ipsa pedes accinta libens cenamque parabit. Testilis hec inter piperino polvere fungos condiet, et per mixta doment multa alia siquos, forsitan imprudens melibeus leggerit ortis. Ut comedas apium memorabunt mella sussurri, pomma leges niseque genas e quantiam andes, pluraque servabis nimio defensa decore, iamque super serpunt hedere radicibus antrum, certa parata tibi, null est cessura voluptas. Huc ades, huc venient qui te per visere gliscent, par hasii juvenesque senes et carmina leti, qui nova mirari cupiant quantiqua doceri. Hi tibi silvestres capreas, hi tergora lincum, orbiculata ferent, tuus ut melibeus amabat. Huc ades, et nostros timeas neque titire saltus, namque fidem celse concusso vertice pinus, glandifere quetiam quercus quarbusta cedere. Non hic insidie, non hic injuria quantas esse putas, non ipse mihi te fidis amanti. Sunt forsanea regna tibi despecta, sed ipsi di non erubuere cavis habitare sub antris. Testis Achilleus Chiron et pastor Apollo. Obsequides demens, quia non permittet iollas, comis et urbanus dum sunt tua rustica dona, hisque tabernaclis non est modo tutius antrum, quis potius ludat. Sed te quis mentis anellum ardor agit, velque pedibus nova nata Cupido. Iratur puerum virgo pueripse volucrem, et volucris silvas et silve flammina verna. Titire te mopsus, miratio gignit amorem. Me contemne sitim frigio musone levabo, scillite hoc nescis, fluvio potabor avito. Qui tamen interea mugit mea buccula circum, quadrifluum ne gravat coxis hum mentibus uber, sic reor, en propero situlas in plere capaces, lacte novo, quod dura queant mollescere frusta. Ad mulctrale veni, si tot mandabimus illi, vascula quod nobis promissit titirus ipse, sed lac pastori forse est mandare super.
Section 6 of Eclogae, Eclogues. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Eclogae, Eclogues, by Dante Alighieri and Giovanni del Virgilio. Eclogue 3, by Giovanni del Virgilio, translated by Edward Hayes Plumptre. Johannes de Virgilio to Dante Alighieri. Beneath the hills well watered, where we see Savena meet with Reno, sportive nymph, her snowy locks entwined with wreaths of green, I found a shelter in a rock-hewn cave. My heifers cropped the herbage on the banks, lambs browsed on tender grass, the goats on shrubs. What should I do? For I alone was there, as dweller in the woods, the rest being gone full speed into the city, business pressed. No Nyssa or Alexis answered me, before such constant comrades. With my hook I carved me pipes of water reeds. Best cure is that for hours that linger, when the shade of Adrian shore. There were the crowded pines in their long rows, and stretching up to heaven, o'erhang the fields as guardian deities. Fields sweet with myrtles and with thousand flowers, and where the watery ram leaves no sands dry, but craves for showers his soft fleece to bedew. The whistling wind of Eurus blowing soft brought to my ears the song of Tityrus, borne on the vocal fragrance o'er the heights of Maenalus, balm breathing on the ear. and in the mouth milk dropping, like to which for many a day the guardians of the flock remember not, though all Arcadians be. Arcadian nymphs rejoice to hear the song, shepherds and sheep and shaggy goats and kine. E'en the wild asses run with pricked up ears, and fawns come dancing from Lycian heights. And to myself I said, if Tityrus thus charm the sheep, the cattle and goats, whilst thou, a dweller in the town, didst sing the song of cities, how long is it since the reed, Benacus grown, hath touched thy lips in shepherd song? Nay, let him hear that thou too a shepherd, singest in the woods. Nor did I linger then, but laid aside the greater reeds, and seized the slender ones, to breathe a new strain with my labouring lips. And so, divine old man, thou wilt be found a second Tityrus, nay, the very man, if we give credit to the Samian. So let Mopsus speak as Meliboeus spoke. Ah me, that thou shouldst dwell in squalid hut, with dust o'erlaid, and shouldst in righteous wrath mourn for the fields of Arno, fields from thee stolen, and from thy flocks. Ah, deed of shame for that ungrateful city! Yet, I pray, wet not thy Mopsus cheeks with flowing tears, nor in thy wrath torment thyself and him, whose love clings round thee full as close, I say as close, O good old man, as doth the vine, that with 100 tendrils clasps the elm. Oh, that once more thou mightest see thy locks grey and sacred, gain a second youth, grown golden, and be trimmed by Phyllis' self. How wilt thou then behold with wondering look thy vine-clad cottage! Yet, lest long delay bring weariness, thou mayst a while rejoice to see my joy, the caves where I find rest. Refresh thyself with me. We both will sing, I with my slender reed, thou playing still the part of master, with more majesty, so that age find his fitting place for each. The place itself invites thee, flowing stream purls through the cavern which the rocks protect, and where the shrubs waft breezes, and around wild marjoram pours its fragrance, and for sleep the poppy grows, and brings, so men report, a sweet forgetfulness. A couch for thee of wilding thyme shall our Alexis strew, whom Corydon bids me call, and willingly will Nyssa gird herself to wash thy feet, and get thy supper ready. Thestilis shall season mushrooms with the pungent dust of pepper, and subdue the garlic strong, if Meliboeus chance to gather that too rashly in his garden. Hum of bees shall bid thee to eat honey. Apples sweet shall be for thee to gather and to taste. Rosy as Nyssa's cheeks are, much beside thou wilt not touch as being all too fair. And o'er the cave the ivy creeps and creeps, with wreaths prepared for thee. And in a word, no pleasure shall be lacking. Come thou then, and with thee come all those who wish to see thy presence with us, young and old alike, from hills Parrhasian, all who would admire, enjoy thy newer songs, and learn the old. These will to thee their offerings bring, or goats fresh from the woods, or spotted hides of lynx, as Meliboeus once was wont to do. Come then, and fear not, Tityrus, our fields. The lofty pines with waving heads give pledge of safety for thee, even so the shrubs and acorn-bearing oaks. No wiles are here, no plots, as thou dost deem, of frauds and wrong. Wilt thou not trust thyself to me who love thee? Perchance thou scornest this my poor abode, and yet the gods have not disdained to dwell in hollow caverns. Witness Chiron old, Achilles' foster father, and Apollo, who lived a shepherd with the sons of men.
Art thou mad, Mopsus? Nay, Iolaus, he, the man of polished culture, will refuse, seeing that thy gifts are but a peasant's store, nor is thy cave as safe as are the tents where Tityrus seeks repose. But what desire so eager leads thee? What new impulse stirs thy feet? The maid still gazes on the youth on bird, the bird upon the woods, Mopsus on thee, O Tityrus, and that gaze engenders love. Reject me then, and I will quench my thirst with Muso, Phrygian born. Truly thou know'st this not, thou drinkest still of thine own country's waters. Why then, why hear I my heifers lowing? Why flow streams fourfold of milk between the dropping thighs? I have it. I will haste to fill the pails with fresh warm milk, wherein the hardest crusts shall pass to softness. Come then to the pail. We'll send as many jugs to Tityrus as he has promised us. And yet, perchance, 'tis a bold thing to offer milk to one himself a shepherd. Oh, even while I speak, my friends draw near, and on the mountain height the setting sun.
Section 7 of Eclogae, Eclogues. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Eclogae, Eclogues, by Dante Alighieri and Giovanni del Virgilio. Ecloga Quarta, by Dante Alighieri. Dantes Alighieri, Johanni de Virgilio. Veleribus colchis prepes detectus eous, allipedes qualii pulchrum titana ferebant. Orbita qua primum flecti de culmine cepit, currigerum cantum libratim quemque tenebat. Resque refulgente solite superarie rumbris, vincebant umbras et fervere rura sinebant. Tityrus hoc propter confugit et alphes ibeus ad silvam, pecudumque suique misertus uterque, fraxineam silvam tiliis platanisque frequentem. Et dum silvestri pecudes mixteque capelle insidunt herbe, dum naribus aera captant, titirus hic annosus enim defensus acerna, fronde soporifero gravis incumbebat odori. Nodosoque piri vulso de stirpe bacillo, stabat sub nixus udiceret alphes ibeus. Quod mentes hominum fabatur ad astra ferantur, onde fuere nove cum corpora nostra subirent, quod pisces coeant pelagi pelagusque relinquant, flumina qua primum nerei confinia tangunt, caucason hircane maculent quod sanguine tigres, et libies coluber quod squamma verrat arenas, non miror, nam cuique placent conformia vitae titire, sed mopso miror, mirantur et omnes pastores alii mecum sicularva tenentes, arida ciclopum placeant quod saxa sub Aetna. Dixerat, et calidus et guttur et tardus anello, iam melibeus adest et vix entitire dixit. In risere senes juvenilia guttura quantum sergeste scopulo vulsum risere sicani, tum senior viridi canum de cespide crinem sustulit et patulis efflanti naribus infit. Ho nimium juvenis, que te nova causa coegit, pectoreos cursu rapidos e cangere folles. Ille nicil contra, sed quam tunc ipse tenebat, cannea cum tremulis conjunctest fistula labris, sibilus in simplex avidas non venit ad aures, verut arundinea pueris pro voce laborat, mira loquar, sed vera tamen spiravit arundo. Forte sub inriguos colles ubi sarpina reno, et tria si flasset ultra spiramina flatta, centum carminibus tacitos mulcebat agrestes. Titirus et secum conceperat alphes ibeus, titiron et vocis compellant alphes ibei. Sic venerande senex tu roscida rura pelori, deserer auderes antrum ciclopis iturus. Ille, quid hoc dubitas? Quid me carissime tentas? Quid dubito? Quid tento refertunc alphes ibeus? Tibia non sentis quod fit virtute canora, numinis et similis natis de murmure cannis, murmure pandenti turpissima tempora regis, qui iussu bromii pactolida tinxit arenam. Quod vocet ad litus et neo pumice tectum, fortunate senex falso ne crede favori, et dria dum miserere loci pecorumque tuorum, te iuga te saltus nostri, te flumina flebunt, absent et nymphae mecum peiora timentes, et cadet invidia quam nunc habet ipse pacinus, nosquoque pastores te cognovisse pigebit. Fortunate senex, fontes et pabula nota, desertare tuo vivaci nomine nollis. O plusquam media merito pars pectoris huius, atque suum tetigit longevus titirus inquit. Mopsus amore pari mecum connexus obillas, que male gliscentem timide fugere Pyreneum, littora dextra pado ratusar rubicone sinistra me colere milida, qua terminat adria terra. Littoris et nei commenda Pasqua nobis, nescius in tenera quod nos duodegimus herba, trinacride montis quo non fecundius alter montibus in siculis pecudes armentaque pavit. Sed quamquam viridi sint post pondea pelori ethnica saxa solo, mopsum visurus adirem, hic gregedi misso ni te Polypheme timerem. Quis Polyphaemon ait non horreat alphes ibeus, assuetum rictus humano sanguine tingui, temporiam ex illo quando Galatea relicti accidis heu miseri discerpere viscera vidit, vix ille vasit, an vis valuisset amoris, effera dum rabies tanta perferbuit ira, quid codaque Menides sociorum cede cruentum, tantum prospiciens animam vix claudere quivit. Ha, mea vita precor numquam tam dira voluptas, te premat ut renus et naias illa recludat, hoc illustre caput cuiam frondator in alta, virgine perpetuas festinat cernere frondes. Titirus a ridens, et totamente secundus, verba gregis magni tacitus concepit alumni. Sed quia tam proni scindebant etra iugales, ut rem quamque sua iam multum vinceret umbra, virgiferi silvis gelida cum vale relictis, post pecudes rediere suas hirteque capelle, inde velut reduces ad mollia prata preibant. Callidus in terrea iuxta latitavit iollas, omnia qui didicit qui retulit omnia nobis, ille qui
Section 8 of Eclogae, Eclogues. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Eclogae, Eclogues, by Dante Alighieri and Giovanni del Virgilio. Eclogue 4, by Dante Alighieri, translated by Edward Hayes Plumptre. Dante Alighieri to Giovanni del Virgilio. Eus, with the Colchian fleece bedecked, and all the other winged steeds, were bearing with headlong course the Titan wondrous fair. His orbit, where it just begins to slope from its mid-height, held each wheel of the car in even balance, and the glittering rays, by shadows oft o'ercome, now in their turn o'ercame the shadows, and the fields grew hot. And therefore, in their pity for their flocks, Alphesiboeus, yea, and Tityrus, fled to the woods wherein the ash, together with the plane and linden, grows. And while the sheep that wander in the fields, goats mingled with them, lie upon the grass, and sniff the breeze, lo, Tityrus reclined, now full of years, beneath a maple's shade,
by the soft slumbrous fragrance sleep oppressed, while on his thick-knobbed staff, from pear-tree torn, Alphesiboeus leant, that he might speak. And then he said, that souls of men ascend up to those stars whence they came down to us, within our bodies a new home to find, that snow-white swans make all Caister's banks re-echo with their songs, in mildest clime rejoicing, and the marshes of the vale, that the dumb fishes leave the deeper sea in shoals, where rivers first approach the bounds of Nereus, that Hyrcanian tigers stain with crimson gore the heights of Caucasus, that Libyan serpent with its scaly tail makes furrows in the sand. At all this I have ceased to wonder, for to all that live appropriate environment brings joy. But Mopsus moves my wonder, moves it too in all the shepherds that with me abide in fair Sicilian fields, that he prefers where Aetna smokes, the Cyclops' cave and rocks. So spake he. Then all hot with panting breath comes Meliboeus. Scarce had he exclaimed, "O Tityrus!" when all the elders mocked his youthful high-pitched voice, as once of yore Sicanians mocked when they Sergestus saw snatched from the rock. And then the old man raised his grey hairs from the grass, and to the youth, whose nostrils still were panting, thus began. Ah, friend or young, what fresh-born care is this, that makes thee vex thy lungs with pace so quick? He nothing answered, but his lips then touched, his trembling lips, the pipe of oaten straw, and thence no single note fell on the ear, but as the youth was striving to draw out tones from his reed, the reed itself breathes forth. I speak a thing most wonderful, yet true. Beneath the hills well watered, where we see Savena meet with Reno, had he then but thrice upon the mouthpiece blown, I trow that he with 50 songs had soothed the ear of silent shepherds, and that Tityrus had listened, and with him Alphesiboeus. And him Alphesiboeus thus addressed, our Tityrus: Wouldst thou, honoured old man, dare to leave Pelorum's dewy plains, and seek the Cyclops' cavern? And he made reply, Why dost thou doubt? Why, dear friend, question me? Why do I doubt? Why question thee? Then spake Alphesiboeus, Hear'st thou not what sound comes from the flute in its melodious might, God-given, like the reeds, the breeze-born reeds, as rumour spreads far off the change that passed o'er the king's temples in their foul disgrace, when he, as Bromios bade him, straightway changed Pactolus' sands to hue of glittering gold? Since he calls thee to where the shore is strewn with Aetna's pumice dust, O blessed old man, trust not delusive favour. Look with pity upon the hallowed spot where dryads haunt, and on thy flocks. The mountain height, the downs, the streams will weep, bereaved of thee. The nymphs, fearing worse things, will weep for thee with me. and the ill will Pachinus bears to us will all subside, and we too shall regret, we shepherds, having known thee. Blessed old man, abandon not the pastures and the springs, on which thy name hath stamped a deathless life. Oh, more, by merit more than half his heart, touching his breast spake aged Tityrus, Mopsus, in love bound up with me for those who fled Pyreneus' passion wild of yore, because I dwell the Po upon my right, and on the left the Rubicon, where sea of Adria bounds the fair Aemilian land. Commence to us the pastures by the shore of Aetna, little knowing that we both dwell in the soft grass of Trinacrian height, more fruitful far than all Sicilian hills in food for flocks and herds. And yet, though rocks of Aetna fall far short of those green fields Pelorum boasts, I fain would leave my flock, and, as thou wishest, come to visit thee, my Mopsus, but for fear of Polypheme. And then Alphesiboeus made reply, who fears not Polypheme, with human blood still wont to stain his lips, from that same hour when Galatea saw her Acis' limbs, poor Acis, torn asunder, scarcely she herself escaped. Would spell of love prevail when his fierce rage was kindled to such heat? And scarce could Achaemenides restrain his soul from parting, when he looked and saw the Cyclops with his comrade's blood besprent. Oh, thou, my bosom friend, I pray thee check that fearful wish that Reno and the nymph thou praisest close within their boundaries this honoured head, to gather wreaths for which, wreaths that fade not, e'en now prepares himself the dresser of the vineyard. Tityrus, smiling in concord with him, heart and soul, in silence listened to his scholar's words, as by the whole flock spoken. But because the horses of the chariot of the sun were moving downwards through the ether pure, so that the shadows o'er all nature spread, the shepherds, leaving valley cool and woods, followed their flocks that took their homeward way, and shaggy goats went foremost as they took their path to soft green meadows. And meanwhile Iolaus crafty listening stood hard by, who heard all this, and told all this to us. He sings to us, O Mopsus, we to thee. End of Eclogue 4. End of Eclogae, Eclogue.